Hello, welcome back to another Spirit Snapshot with me, your favorite spirits personality on YouTube, Ralphie. I mean Brad LeClaire. I mean the guy from Mash and Drum. I mean Daniel Whittington. Nah, I'm Ed. I am Ed from the Rockout Review, and we are talking about rums. So last week we did a little tiny itty bitty video about Bacardi. I think this time we're going to get a little bit more in depth because we're doing something kind of fun today that kind of encompasses the rum world. So let's talk about the history of rum real quick. So, when the colonial powers, mainly France, England, or Great Britain, and Spain, kind of started moving into Latin America and the Caribbean and taking over stuff, as they did, they quickly realized they could grow sugarcane in those areas. And there was a huge demand for processed sugar in Europe. So, what they did was they took a bunch of enslaved Africans from Africa and obviously horrid conditions, shipped them to the Caribbean and Latin America to farm sugarcane. And in the process of making sugarcane into refined sugar, creates a byproduct that is molasses. So the powers that be, the colonial powers, started taking that molasses and distilling it. That was a big part of what the U.S. was involved in at the time. The northern states, like New England especially, before whiskey was even a thing here in the States, people were making rum. Because like the English government would ship rum from the Caribbean to the north, and we would distill it, we'd sell it back to them, and that money would go to buy more slaves. That's why it's called the Triangle Trade. Slaves went to the Caribbean, molasses went north, rum went back to Africa to buy more slaves. Really messed up system. But rum was, a big thing because rum was given out as rations in the British Navy, mixed with lime juice to ward off scurvy, stuff like that. So it's an important part of the economy. Like, it's a dark, horrible economy. Like, really, us Northerners should feel more bad about our place, like, encouraging that stuff. Like, it wasn't just the South. But that's how it was fueled. So, it created these three kind of zones of rum making. The Spanish zone, the French zone, and the English zone. Each with its own kind of style. And each country in particular has its own style. But generally, countries that were under English colonial rule make like darker aged rums that really accentuate that molasses flavor. Ones that were under Spanish rule tend to make añejo style rums, like aged rums. Not too dissimilar from what we're going to be talking about today. That really, they're sweet, but, they're sweet. They incorporate some barrel notes. They're kind of a middle ground. And then there's the French producers. Places like Martinique make rum agricole. And in addition, there's also Brazil, who makes cachaça. I'm butchering that. I don't know how to say it. They're obviously Portuguese. But those are kind of the general categories. Now, this is Banks rum. And it incorporates rum from 7 different countries, which I think is super cool. Those 7 countries are Jamaica, Guyana, Java, which are all former colonies of England, Trinidad and Guatemala, Panama, and Barbados. So a mixture of... So Trinidad, I think, was English. Guatemala, Panama, and Barbados, as far as I know, were Spanish. Barbados might not have been. I'm not sure. Anyway, but it's a mixture of those different spheres of influence and those different styles. So the one that's really cool here is, you might have picked out, was Java. That's in Indonesia. That's not even in the Caribbean. They make a very particular kind of rum there called Batavian Arak, which is this rum. It's quasi rum made from cane sugar and rice. and it's spicy. Like it's not like your regular Caribbean rum that we associate. It's much spicier, drier, a little bit more of a kick your teeth in kind of thing. And that was big in punch for British sailors, sailing through that part of the world. But this incorporates all of them. And it markets itself as a very dry but flavorful rum, as opposed to every other rum, which is flavorful but very sweet. Yeah, I've been playing around with this one for a little while. I've been sipping on it and sniffing it, and it really does. It is quite dry. It's quite dry. There's this interesting bitter medicinal undertone that I kind of dig, but it mixes quite a few different flavors. First off, you definitely get this really dark sugar, dark bootstrap. What is it? Bootstrap molasses? Yeah. But it's molasses. You can smell that dark molasses flavor. But it's really mixed in with this tannic woodiness it's like a cedar chest. It's not quite deep oak, but like cedar wood. A little bit of kind of a citrusy zest. Quite a bit of spice. I'm thinking cardamom, pepper. Not cinnamon exactly, but there's this interesting hot spiciness that's there on the nose. Yeah, and that really comes out in the taste. That is super, super drying on the taste. Like if you think rums are all supposed to be super sweet and because they're made from sugar, they're supposed to be super sweet. This puts the lie to that. This is all tannic. There's some fruitiness, but it's like dried fruit, dried mango, dried pineapple. And then like this interesting medicinal, it's like anise mixed with cherry on the finish. Like cherry flavor without the sweetness mixed with black licorice. I don't know. It's weirdly medicinal and I kind of dig it. This is like the rye of rums. Everyone knows how much of a rye hipster I am, so obviously I'm gonna like this one. Yeah. I dig that. There's just a tiny, tiny bit of tingly sweetness there on the front end, and then it just all ends with that tannic bitterness. It's fantastic. I don't know if this is necessary for everybody, because it might not be what you're expecting from a rum, but I like it. The one thing I do want to talk about with this is you may notice looking at the bank's statement. Haha, see what I did there? Banks, it's labeled as Golden Age 7. It's not 7 years old. 7 refers to the number of countries that it has rum from, which is something you may run into with rums, is that because there's so many countries making them, and because there's less oversight as opposed to whiskey, there is less, they're less translucent or transparent about their age statements. This looks like it should be 7 years old. It's not. I have no idea how old it is. But you know how Jameson Crested 10 had to stop calling itself Crested 10 and now it's just Jameson Crested or whatever, because it looked like it was giving the wrong impression. There's a lot of that going on with rum, unfortunately. And there's a lot of stuff where it's a little funny, knowing how old the thing actually is. Next week's video, though, we're going to talk about one that does it right and tells you exactly what you're getting. But yeah, either way, no matter what the age statement is, I like Banks. I feel like that may be, this could be a controversial rum that divides people because of its taste profile. I really dig it though. So this has been a Spirit Snapshot. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe and do all that other fun stuff. I don't know why I'm doing this. I just started, and now I can't stop. Stay rotten.